Hi, hello, and welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. My name is Andy, sometimes Mouse, and I talk about books and book-related things, and today I am giving you my August wrap-up. Now, full disclaimer, this is probably my shortest wrap-up ever, like my smallest list ever, and that is because I went on a trip out of state and then proceeded to move into a new house, as you can see. If you haven't seen any of my videos leading up to this video, then you wouldn't know that, so here we are. Yes, some of my lights are messed up, I'm still working on it. It's a work in progress. Respect it. Okay. I'm also going to try and have a book blanket update for you this month. I make no promises. I have 5 rows left, I think. So it would be a matter of getting it done. 6 rows left. So it would be a matter of getting it done before Tuesday. It is currently Friday. So we'll see, right? We'll see what happens. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into the stats. For the month of August, I read a total of 19 books. Yep, like I said, smallest probably wrap-up I think I've done ever, maybe, but definitely in a long time. So definitely a small, short month, which made it very hard to pick a top and worst book of the month. Well, the worst. I'll get back to that. I read a total of 1,728 pages. I listened to a total of 132 hours and 41 minutes. My average rating was a 3.6. I read an average of 118.3 pages per day. I listened to an average of 4 hours and 31 minutes per day. I purchased a total of 3 books. I do not know the cost though. That is because I bought them. I actually think I bought those before August, actually. It was around the time that I went on my trip, so they actually, I feel like they don't count. But I could be wrong, but I feel like they don't count, you know? You know, you feel me? You feel me on that? Maybe you don't. Anyway, this is 2 of them, just because I happen to have them next to me. I don't know anything about them. Don't ask me questions. I haven't read them yet. I'm kind of saving them from free Clear Your Shit. Anyway, I did a total of 3 rereads, and I checked out only 3 library books. So most of the books that I read are books that I owned the audiobook for, or I borrowed the book. Yeah. Anyway. 14 of those books were audiobooks, and 5 of them were ebooks. I did not read any physical books or graphic novels this month. 4 of those books were between the pages of 301 and 400 pages, and 1 book was between pages 201 and 300. And of course, I'm only counting the books that I read with my eyeballs and not the books that I listened to, because that would be silly and would not count. I didn't read those pages, so it wouldn't matter, you know? Again, of those books, 10 of them were adult books and 9 of them were young adult, so still keeping on that trek of reading more adult than young adult books. I really thought that this month was going to be different, but I think that I ended up balancing it out because of the sci-fi and non-fiction-ish books that I read this month. I don't know, but I feel like it balanced itself out. Next is going to be where I will talk about the genres if I end up filming my book blanket update. If I don't film my book blanket update, here are the genres. I read a total of 7 fantasy books, 6 sci-fi books, 2 thrillers, and 2 horrors. Short and sweet. And because this was only 19 books, it is a very, very short stats list. That's it. That's the stats list. I am going to go ahead and tell you about my top 5 books of the month. I, again, recognize that this is a very short. So far, this video is like 4 minutes long, maybe, tops. So, luckily, my top books are really, really top books. My number 1 book is like my number 1 book for sure. And my worst book, I finished today. It was not what was on this original list when I scripted this video, and it is now. So we have that to look forward to. I'm gonna not start with my top book of the month because I really, really want to talk about it, but we're gonna like work our way up. Chosen Ones by Veronica Roth. This is a sci-fi book that Art recommended for me. It was really, really good. It's kind of like what happens after you like save the world. The dynamics, the trauma, etc. And the magic in it was really, really interesting, and I love me some superheroes. If I'm gonna read a sci-fi, I really, really enjoy superheroes. But I also enjoy robots, and on that note, the next book on this list is A Prayer for the Crown Shy by Becky Chambers. This is the next book in the A Psalm for the Wild-Built Monk and Bot, maybe, series? I don't know. It is a novella, and you know, they're just kind of heartwarming stories, and sometimes you just really need that. Like, you just need something soft to read, and I feel like a lot of the time when you say that, people think that you're referring to like something like a meet cute sweet romance with a guaranteed happily ever after, and that is not what I'm talking about. I just want like to read about people enjoying life and being happy, and that's it. Maybe having some conclusions, but not experiencing severe trauma while I'm reading it. You know, that's what I want sometimes, and this book hits that nail on the head. Just really comforting to read about those two again. Next, we have The Scratch Daughters by H.A. Clarke, which is the Scapegracer's sequel. I was very nervous about reading this book, and then I read it and I really enjoyed it. I will say it takes a little while to find its footing. I feel like the first book kind of hits off with a bang, whereas the second book took a little bit more time. The reason why becomes clear when you recognize that Sideways Pike is kind of sharing her body with an entity, and that's its own conundrum. And I really enjoyed it, though. It just, like I said, took a little while to find its footing, but once it did, it was fantastic. And the way that Clarke managed the dynamics between all of the girls, because they kind of, you know, they invited Sideways in to their group that they've been in for life, so there are some changes and adjustments that come with that territory, that to pretend like there isn't some headbutting when that happens in real life would be, I don't know, unrealistic to me. I will say, though, this book did make me realize that I really do think I'm growing out of young adult books, because a lot of the time the dynamics, the arguments, they're hard for me, because I'm like, can you guys just maybe have a conversation? Have you thought about maybe just talking about it? Because I think that that would solve a lot of your problems if you just talked about it and then also listened to each other. And that is a lot of the time the problem with young adult books, is that they're all emotions and not a lot of communication, and the older I get, the less tolerance I have for it, which means I do recognize that I am finally growing out of young adult, and I do find their dynamics a little bit annoying to read sometimes. Not so much in this book, this book was the time, like it is the time that I realized that that's why I have some grievances with character behavior. Next, we have a novella that was not on my TBR initially, and it was hilarious. Several People Are Typing by Calvin Kasulki. This book is about a guy that gets stuck inside Slack, and as someone who used to use Slack for work, it was so funny. It was just so funny. I was sending screenshots to my parents because they both use Slack for work, and they thought it was hilarious, and I was talking about it with my friends and coworkers because it was just honestly so funny. And also had some moments of like softness to it that I really liked. I think my biggest complaint about the book would be that there were some things that happened that I feel like didn't get explained. But it is a novella, and so you can't expect everything to get explained 100%. And finally, my best book this month, normally I don't specify, but my absolute best book this month was I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. Now, full disclosure here that this book has a lot of triggering and traumatizing content that might be really hard for some people to read. While I personally don't have these specific triggers, I do want to emphasize that people should be looking at those content warnings and stuff that reviewers have left, and I believe the book itself had content warnings at the beginning. I don't super remember, but I think that it does. I am really bad at remembering trigger warnings and content warnings, which is why I'm not outright giving them to you, because I don't remember all of them other than obviously child abuse. So with that being said, just, you know, care for yourself and make sure that you pick up the book with that in mind, because it's not worth the hype enough to trigger yourself. However, I've read quite a few celebrity memoirs. I enjoy them. I like the gossip. I like the tea. I like the information. I like to know how someone got from A to B as well. Most of the time they're written pretty badly. They are boring, they are surface level and shallow, and they'll give a full chapter about why they have individual tattoos, but they will not explain further in depth the conversation around an abusive relationship. They just kind of glaze over it and then they're like, anyway, here's a whole chapter on my tattoos. And I understand that sometimes traumas are hard to talk about. However, in this instance, I understand that traumas are hard to talk about. However, it just seems like you shouldn't, if it's hard to talk about, maybe don't mention it at all instead of just glazing over it, because that sort of dismisses the content. Jennette McCurdy did not do that. She did not shy away at all from the content in this book. And the thing that I think that makes this book so good is that throughout the book, the perspective is herself at whatever age she's at. So, you know, when you're reading about her at 6 or 7, it's from the mindset of that 6 or 7-year-old who doesn't know any better. And I think that that really allows you or forces you to be more considerate of the things that she tolerated, because you're looking at it from the perspective of a 6 or 7-year-old who, like, that's their mom and they love their mom and they want to make their mom happy. And that makes sense, right? To a 6 or 7-year-old. You as an adult, you're reading it and you're seeing like, this is abuse. But a 6 or 7-year-old wouldn't have made that connection, especially with it not being outright physical abuse, which is really hard to process and to understand. Additionally, the way that Jennette McCurdy handled the tea with Ariana Grande, with Nickelodeon, etc., was really well done. I do think that if you're going into this book looking for that tea, because I'm kind of fucking annoyed with social media right now with this, if you're going into the book looking for that tea, it is like small snippets of the book and not the focus of the book. I would not go in looking for it. If you just want the hot gossip, ask somebody to summarize it for you. It is not, don't pick up the book for that. It's not, that's not what the book is about. The book is about the traumas that Jennette experienced, especially within the child stardom, and how so much of it went dismissed or unnoticed because of the way that child stardom is sort of set up and how that system failed her. As someone with an eating disorder and as somebody who went through emotional abuse, I think that Jennette talked about these things in such a tangible, honest way that sometimes it hurt my feelings, but it was very on the nose, like it was very correct. And I think that Jennette did a fantastic job of writing this. If I had not ever watched iCarly and did not know who Jennette was and I read this book, I would have assumed she was a writer before she was ever an actress. And I think that that really is telling, because some acting people cannot write to save their lives, unfortunately. Jennette is not one of those people. She wrote a fantastic book, and I cannot emphasize enough how wonderful it is to read something so raw and honest it feels. And Jennette in interviews and stuff has just been like, if you've been abused by a parent, you get the name, you get the title. It's tongue-in-cheek. And I think that if her mother had not passed, we, one, would not have this fantastic piece of literature, but two, Jennette McCurdy would no longer be here alive. So that was my top book of the month. Now on to the worst book I read this month that I finished today. That's going to be an ARC, an advanced reader copy that I got. It comes out in about 6 days as of, so I think the 8th, maybe? The 8th or 9th of this month of September. And that is Monsters Born and Made by Tanvi Barwa. Now, normally when I feel so outright negatively about a book, I can give you a really full, long descriptor about the book. I can tell you all the details about the book and why all of it was bad. With this book, everything was so underwritten that I cannot do that. I don't really understand the competition that was happening. I don't really understand the social dynamics that was happening, why there was a rebellion, other than like the blatant racism, which that part I get. I get that part. That part I get. Everything else, no idea. I don't know what a maristag looks like. I don't understand what any of these animals are. I don't really get like what their jobs are and how come some of them are hunting them and some of them are not. And like, I don't understand how like they're able to train some of them, but then also they're able to kill. I don't get it. I don't understand. And then also to imply that there's some kind of romance happening between two of the characters. What? And most of the conflict that happens is like competition, someone blows something up, girly's sister is sicker. Competition, someone blows something up, girly's sister is even more sicker. Rinse and repeat for 400 pages. I did not have a good time. I did not know what was happening, and when I did know what was happening, it felt underwritten and the dialogue was bad. So it was just flat. It should have been fleshed out a little bit more. It felt like one of those books that maybe was rushed, or that you had the vaguest of concepts for and then just didn't think about writing all of the things. I don't know. I saw a lot of high reviews for the world building, and I'm very confused about where any of that world building was. I did not personally see any. Maybe I missed it, but I didn't see any, and I have a lot of questions still about how this world works. It felt like I was getting to look at the world through a window that had a film on it, and also a sheer curtain over it, and also I didn't have my glasses on. That's what it felt like for world building. So like I got the vibe and it seemed super cool, but the vibe was not enough to make me understand the world to enjoy the plot. So that's why it was the worst book this month. The other book I was gonna pick was Godslayers by Zoe Hana Mikuta, I think, which is the sequel to Gearbreakers. All of the flaws in Gearbreakers are exacerbated, are made worse in Godslayers. The ice cream truck is here and they're playing a very weird song. They are always playing a very weird song though. Anyway, that's my August wrap up though. I hope you enjoyed it. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe and share, and if you have read any of these books or were going to read any of these books, let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to talk about them with you especially now that I have time and spoons to respond to comments. If you did not enjoy this video, let me know in the comments down below how I can make it better for you, unless it is regarding opinion, which is subjective and we don't need to argue about it. Okay, thanks, bye. I post videos on Tuesdays and Thursdays every single week at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, so I hope to see you here again later on this week. I don't remember what I was gonna say, so take your meds, drink your water, and do something today to take care of yourselves. Okay, thanks, bye.